So good evening, everyone. Welcome to Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting on the 11th of March. Do we have any apologies for absence? Rachel? Sorry.
Yes, excuse me. Yes, apologies please from Michelle Welsh. Substitute is Councillor Jim Creamer.
Okay, and looking round, I think everyone else is here. Okay, so we've got the minutes of the meeting from the 15th of January. Is there anything for accuracy, first of all? No, so are we happy to agree they're correct? So, do I need a proposer and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Whiting, and a seconder.
No, sorry, Chair, it was a comment.
Question. I apologise.
Point 35, future scrutiny work programme. We spoke before about the flooding and an updated report, and it says it would be presented soon. Is that coming to a future committee? Thank you.
Okay. Are we happy that these minutes are correct? Thank you. I'm going to take Kyle and Jim as they nodded. Not even that Jim was at the last meeting, but still. Okay. As a matter of arising, just in case there was any confusion, so we were in the committee room for the last meeting as a trial. One of the things that came out of that was that we need a different laptop because the officers had a few issues working the laptop connection. We had some feedback about it being quite cramped for this size committee, but we didn't get much feedback. So if people have either got feedback now or they want to send it afterwards to Emma, then that would be helpful. Thank you. Can't see anyone wanted to speak about it now, so that's fine. And then just to remind people, if there's any declaration of interest that you know now, or if not, to raise them should they arise, that would be helpful. Thank you. So next item 4, around the programme of portfolio holder attendance, and today we have Councillor Linda Pearson here to talk about her portfolio on communities and place. Thank you. I think Councillor Pearson's going to give a presentation. She'd prefer if we leave questions to the end. So unless there's something that's not clear, then that'd be helpful. Thank you.
If it's not clear to you, it's probably not clear to me either. I do apologise, I've got a cough. I was knocking a wall down at the weekend and I think I swallowed more brick dust than we did, so do apologise. Communities and place portfolio. So it's new to me. It's a really exciting portfolio. I think it's probably one of the nicest ones with the least amount of aggravation from people. So I'm really pleased to tell you what we've done. When I say we, I mean Lance and Jane and Sarah and Tanya. I really don't do the work. They work really, really hard behind the scenes. Lance isn't unfortunately here to hear that. But just to let you know, do you share this, Emma, with everybody after the... Yeah, brilliant stuff. Okay, make sure I'm doing the right button. No, I'm not. Which button is it? There we go. So the portfolio itself has a number of bullet points. We cover heritage, community events and play, engagement with the voluntary sector, parish council liaison, senior council, and other engagement forums and rural affairs. I'm going to cover a little bit of what we've done in each of those areas. If you need more information after this, we can pass that to you. So back in 2018, there was the Gedling heritage strategy. That was before my time. Kind of slowed down during COVID a little bit, but it continued through the heritage, brought a live brochure. If you haven't seen this brochure, guys, you need to get this. It's a fabulous brochure with lots of information in about your local areas, a lot of heritage information, a lot of history. It's a good read, even if this isn't your portfolio. So we paused the plans for future work for a little while, and the UK Shared Prosperity Fund allocation has given us the opportunity to revisit that heritage work. So a little bit of the UK Shared Prosperity. It's given us the opportunity to look at that heritage strategy that's available in full on PDF on Gedling Borough Council website if you want to have a better look. We're also exploring the Gedling brand and how we fit that into the heritage. We're supporting the visitors economy and local assets, so we're encouraging people to come out of the area and within the area, make it accessible for all, to visit all of the places that we have available in Gedling Borough and outside. And we're looking at the Heritage Way walking and cycling routes. Again, this is on the Borough site if you want to have a longer look. It's a fabulous idea of creating a circle, if you like, a green circle, which they have in Peterborough, which I've used an awful lot of times, and along it, heritage things to look at, involving local people and people outside with all of the things that we offer to our constituents. We like to mark 50 years of the Gedling Borough Council, and we're also looking at 200 years since Byron's death. Obviously a local important person, and we can work with some of our outside agencies with that. Also working the legacy of the black miners, and I'll explain that in a moment, working with a fabulous lady who's done an awful lot of work and artwork, and we're looking at borrowing some artwork for the council and for other places, the library and other important places that people can get involved and be better educated. Whoops, daisies. Oh, there we go. So community events and play. Actually, do you want to ask any questions as you go along on areas it might be easier? Of course you do. Why am I not? Be gentle with me. Go for it.
Sorry.
Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Linda. Byron's death, it's the celebration in 200 years is in 5.5 weeks. It's been mentioned numerous times, particularly in these meetings, that we're going to do something about it. And you've mentioned it again. I'm not going to go at you personally, because there's officers involved here, and it's officers I've spoken to, but there's 5.5 weeks, I've heard nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And Byron, of course, was a resident within my ward.
So it's very
hence
important we do
particular
that.
interest.
Let me find some information about where we are with it and whether we're going to include it throughout the year and not just on the anniversary of his death, which is, I think, where we were going to move forward so that we didn't miss that opportunity. Even in some of the bigger events that we're going to do, for example, the Arnold event, we're looking to see if we can include it in everything that we do, but I can come back with some definitive answers for you.
Councillor Ellis.
Yes, apologies. I should have declared an interest with regard to Gedling Play Forum. I do that now.
Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
Ditto.
Okay. Carry on, I think.
Did Councillor Smith have a... No. Judge, you might. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, community events and play, which is a really fabulous thing to be encouraging, and I do thank the Play Forum for everything they do. So we've had to change the way that we do things. Obviously, COVID-19 affected everybody within the council and outside of the council, and things slowed down dramatically, but we still tried to include what we could. We're working with co-production with partners, so the approach now is that we co-produce, we encourage, we enable, we support, we advise, we signpost communities to deliver rather than delivering ourselves and facilitating it for them. That's a financial improvement for us, but it gives them the availability to do what they need to do. But there's lots of things we've got in place now that can help them. So co-production with partners and communities is the way forward. Gives us an opportunity to do community events, to engage with these communities, to find out what we're doing and not doing correctly, to help us to appreciate the demographics and also to look at full inclusion for everybody. It reflects the Gedling Borough Council priorities: heritage, health and wellbeing, equality, diversity. I'm working closely with Councillor Fox on her portfolio because there's an awful lot of overlap. And I imagine probably on other portfolios as well, we overlap an awful lot. We're prioritising neighbourhoods, towns and parish centres, destination parks, so we're not missing out any area from the centre of Arnold to the centre of Carton Hill to Burton Joyce to Calverton and all those that I haven't mentioned. We're trying to include everybody and give everybody the opportunity to deliver what they want to deliver. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund is aiding us greatly to do that. And the grant agreement with the Gedling Play Forum to deliver play activities continues and is extremely successful. So again, thank you to those that work tirelessly to do that. Whoops. Oh, there we go. So in 2023-24, we managed to deliver the Arnold Summer Fair with the Windrush theme. It was an awful lot smaller than we've done previously. It's about resources, it's about finances, about coming out of COVID, but it was well received. Very, very little negative feedback, and what we did have, we were able to work on to improve for this year. Gedling Country Park environmental events still ongoing, Remembrance Day parades, the Arnold Christmas light switch on, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but I am about 12 at Christmas. Nottinghamshire Day, community events supported in Newstead, Carton Hill, Killysick, Netherfield, Warren Hill and smaller ones all over the area, and play at community events delivered by the Play Forum through an annual grant agreement. So again, absolutely fantastic. And within that, we're then attracting the younger people, we're supporting single parents that may otherwise not have a relationship with us. So hopefully it means that everybody has opportunity to become involved. Looking forward to 24-25, there's a voluntary and community sector pride event at Richard Herod that we're supporting. The Arnold Summer Fair, we're going to look at 50 years of Gedling, gives us the opportunity to work. When I said 50 years, I thought the 40s, but we're actually talking about the 80s forward, which is quite scary. That's how old I am. Nottinghamshire Day at the AMP and the town centre. The inter-community event at Gedling Country Park. Remembrance and a peace theme, so slightly expanding. The Remembrance Parades, absolutely to continue and improve where we can. Honour Christmas lights at the town centre. At the moment, we've got 2 apprenticeship and job fairs guaranteed and a couple more in the pipeline. Pop-up town centre events. Bonington Theatre programme is fabulous. I just had another look at it today. And enable community events supported where we can. So we can't always provide an immediate resource, but we can support them, help them with their risk assessments. We have on the Gedling Borough Council site, there's actually information there that they can follow through page by page to get to where they want to be, and we can help them appeal for funding as well, and hopefully give them the confidence to be able to do that themselves. And then additional support, as I just mentioned, the event guidance webpage, which is really fabulous. Go and have a quick look at that. And if you can share it with any of your community groups that we've not managed to share it with, please do. Support for community-enabled events through that Prosperity Fund. We liaise on event management plans with the Safe Advisory Group, so Lance sits on the group, and we can give them signposting to the right people with the right qualifications to ensure that they're safe and able to develop both environmentally safe and also health and safety. Play Forum, we liaise with them on all of the events that they do, and support the Gedling Play Forum with a community asset transfer, which is something we're still looking into. I'm really pleased what we've got going forward, just about to sign it off, but we are open to other events. We are open to discussions with people. We've got some capacity to help people where they need it, so please ask your local community groups to contact us. Lance isn't going to like me for saying that. Okay, so the big words really, strengthen the community. Strengthening the community is extremely important on lots of, you can refer to it how you like, but for me, it's the community supporting themselves with our help. It's reaching every single person in those communities, whether they're rural, whether they're in the town centres. It's ensuring that everybody has accessibility to everything that they need from all of the diverse backgrounds that they come to. We need to enable a voluntary sector in Gedling. We haven't got a CVS currently, but we've accepted tenders and a decision will be made shortly to set up a new CVS programme, working very similar to the CVS works, which will take some pressure off some of our guys and will give us a focus hub for those local community groups to work together. So there'll be more about that. And it will commission health and wellbeing providers to deliver sustainable neighbourhood-based services to individuals, especially looking at those that have a barrier to access. So that could be access, something as simple as IT and access to IT, or it could be somebody with a mental health issue or a disability issue that makes it difficult to contact us, or simply they don't feel able to come into the council. Some people are scared to do that. So we're trying to get out there to every single corner to ensure that everybody is welcome to contact us. I'm moving, I don't know why it doesn't like the button, do apologise. Did I go twice? Oh, no, there we go. So this is just some information about where we are with Strength the Community, what we've done. I'm not going to read it bit for bit, it'll come out to you at the end, you can have a look. But as you can see, moving through, we've got money from that UK fund to look at community connection, employability, life skills. There is no end to what we can do working with other portfolios. So although I look after the portfolio for parish councils and senior, we've got a youth council that Catherine looks after, so we're working together. In fact, we're trying to get councils from the youth and the senior to work together because that's a fantastic arrangement. We're looking at that complement of offering volunteer training and governance, life skills, health and wellbeing. We want to be available to everybody. Life skills is a really important area, something I used to work in prior to working at a council many years ago. And if you miss out on life skills from an early age, it can affect you for the rest of your life. So if we can do a small something to be out there inviting people to build on their life skills, that's very important. And Gedling Borough Council does it very well. Is it your machine I'm talking to? There we go. So the CVS outreach hubs in Gedling, once the tender's been approved, we'll be setting up the CVS here rather than using Rushcliffe, which has been difficult. No disrespect meant to them at all, but they're a distance away and they don't necessarily understand what's needed in Gedling because they live in Rushcliffe. So it'd be really great to get that up and running and put that arm available to people. That's big news. And then the customer relation management system, which is part of the upskilling to IT, where we're looking what we can make available to those community groups that have access and knowledge, and where they haven't got access and knowledge, point them to another community group that may be willing to help them. In the senior group recently, we discovered we've got an absolute expert iPad gentleman who's now training the rest of them how to use iPads that they've brought. So it's about sharing information and knowledge. There we go. And I mean, that's the strong local infrastructure enables communities to influence decision, build partnerships and networks, encourage volunteering opportunities. When it's accessible locally and individually, they thrive, and it's absolutely true. Those community groups that we've managed to help are thriving. They're helping other community groups, and it's proven to those that have less experience that they can do it with some help and support from us. They're not on their own, they're part of a team. And we're looking for those things at the bottom: the leadership, advocacy, partnership, collaborations, capacity building and volunteering. By enabling them to do it, it gives us the capacity to help those that need more help, so they're not left behind. So, community development influence. GBC, funded by the National Health Integrated Care Scheme, they hosted a community development work for South Notts back in 2020, which was really, really successful. Before my time, but I've seen some of the feedback from that. We expanded the programme to 2 workers with the help of Rushcliffe CVS, and 24-25, 5 community development workers now funded across South Notts through ICS and the public health funding, now to be hosted by the voluntary sector organisations. I've got some more information for that. Didn't have it accessible. Unfortunately, Lawrence was bringing it. Was unable to come. But there'll be more information to come through to all councillors about how we're working on that, because it will affect some of your areas. Any questions on the voluntary sector? Excellent. If you do think at the end, please just come back to us or pass them to Emma. That would be great. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Parish Council Liaison. This for me has been one of the biggest areas that I've enjoyed doing. Parish councillors are strong, passionate people who are doing an awful lot in their local communities and don't always feel that they're part of the council, and that's coming from them, from a feedback that we had from them. After COVID, we fed back to them that we wanted to meet with them, we wanted them to become part of the team here, we wanted to work closely with them and how important they were in our local rural communities. So we re-established the parish clerk liaison meetings. They're now quarterly, and very occasionally we have an extra one, which is just a coffee and cake and a chat, which is a very, very nice place to be. Parish Council was held in October. It wasn't perfect, but it was the best we could deliver with the information we had. But we had a lot of great feedback, about how they'd like it to work their way. So this year we're building it around the way that they want it delivered. And from that, a couple of the councillors in the room here, we've got meetings with parish councillors running on from that meeting because I've got some information they want to share with us. I speak to most of the parish councillors now, and there's some really great, talented people out there, and if we can keep that relationship with them, and if I can help them, if they can't get hold of their local council or they get hold of planning, if I can at least be a sort of conduit between the two and take some information off them, they feel heard. Additional engagement meetings, so if they want an additional meeting for something, we'll organise it. It's not a problem, we'll do our very best. And the annual parish conference, I say, was absolutely fabulous. Really pleased with what came out of it. And we're not precious. They did come back with some critical feedback, but we've managed to change it. They want it to be more about them rather than us talking to them, which is absolutely fine. And they've now given us areas that they want little workshops on. So I'm really excited. We had a really good commitment to attend. So we'll encourage everybody to come back. Next year. Thank you. So yeah, carry on with the liaison meetings, and we can have more if we need them, if there's a particular issue that they've got, which, as I say, a couple of councillors in the room, we've got some extra sort of ad hoc meetings about particular things they want to look at. We've got the engagement network and the community connectors, so we've got people within lots of community groups and lots of communities who aren't necessarily part of their parish councils, aren't necessarily part of the council, but they're lead members in that community that are members of local groups, or perhaps, I don't know, school governors, or perhaps just people that are very interested or have lived there for a long time. We open the door for them to liaise with us as well and try and find like-minded people for them to work with. The Youth Council, we engage with the Youth Council, and I'm particularly keen to get the Senior Council and the Youth Council together, because I think there's an awful lot to be done with youngsters and older people. Health and wellbeing and production partnerships, so we're working closely with health and wellbeing, and all the events that we put on, we try very hard to have an element of health and wellbeing within them, as well as accessibility. So where at all possible, we'll include some health and wellbeing information about access to swimming, to sports, to groups, to try and encourage people to spread their wings a little. The Senior Council is fantastic. Years and years of expertise in a room, an awful lot of passion, a lot of knowledge. They're a great group of people, and they don't mind singing and dancing if you put a ukulele on either. And I have got some council officers dancing. If anybody wants to see that video, I can send it out to you. Been sworn to secrecy, but it's too late, it's out now. We're going to take a more coordinated approach, and we're going to work with these people again to empower them to deliver what they need to deliver themselves with our help. We don't want them to feel they can't deliver it, but we need to empower them to feel that they can do it. Without us holding their hand, without us leading. It's their group, their speciality. We just want to make sure they don't feel that they're alone. So that's continued this year. Thank you. I can see now, I press a little button and then at the end of the table presses a button. So rural affairs, our communities, we've got that parish clerk liaison and the parish conference, which is really strong. We've looked at and continuing to look at outdoor sport, play and pitch strategy that was adopted in 23. Certainly in Gedling, I'm involved greatly with a lot of work on the sports, and I know there's an awful lot more work to be done about our sport provision and our leisure centres. I'm fully aware of that. At the moment, we're working hard with the parish clerks of rural sports to make sure that they're consulted on everything, where they run these events, where they run classes, where they run the actual playing field, for example, that we work with them and they don't feel that they're in any way excluded from any discussions. We have the funding and volunteer opportunities, so we send them out to everybody in our community hubs in the Bestwood, Ravenshead, Calverton, through the Community Hubs Partners Network and community letters. Anybody gives us their contact details, as long as it's not private information, we will share this with them. There may be something that they can use. The Strengthen Community Programme continues to support the voluntary sector, and as I say, watch this space for us to have a new CVS similar framework in place. And we work really closely with Arcan. They helped both fund and facilitate the parish council conference, and they will be back next year. They're very, very good partners to have. Oh, thank you. You're ahead of me now. So we've done some working with business advice surgeries. So it's the County Council. It's open to all businesses, including those in the rural area, and we advertise those and encourage people to attend. In fact, a couple of groups, they struggled to attend, so they sent one person from 3 completely individual groups, which we thought was a great way of community working, and then shared the information. Easter 2024 campaign and trail for Calverton. We're not going to miss Calverton out. Burton Joyce, there's a work and visit and vacancy survey the town centre manager is completing. St Winifred Square site visit took place with the town centre manager. We're working forward. Ravenshead visit and vacancy survey done, and Hillcrest Business Park expansion in Calverton, which you'll all be aware of. The Cabinet have approved the budget, and we're looking at pre-construction contracts, so there'll be more coming back for that. That's us. I'm just checking that. Yeah, that's us. And what I really wanted to say is, in addition to this, is thank you for the team, but also thank you to you guys and the rest of the councillors, because a lot of you put a lot of effort in to get this done. It covers all of your areas of portfolio, it also covers all of your council areas, and without us working together, we couldn't do it. So I'm really grateful for the support and help, because it's new to me, and I've needed some help.
Thank you. Have we got any questions? Yes, Councillor Ellis?
Thank you for that. Could you tell us more about what you're planning to do to commemorate the 50 years of Gedling Borough Council? You had something about a fair like we had for Windrush, but considering we're also doing stuff on heritage, would it not make sense to have people who stood in those 3 elections that happened in 1973? I can't imagine it. And then obviously the council being set up in 74, after a mass rescale reorganisation of local government, it's important that we get their views.
And I wouldn't want to possibly tell you anything that's a surprise and a secret. We'll obviously be celebrating internally with the officers are having their own celebrations. It's a fantastic thing to get to 50 years. I'm not going to share you exactly. I'm going to check what I'm allowed to tell you. But we do want to celebrate the 50 years, not least of all the changes in political, but you know, it's an important thing. We're going to remain in this building. It's an important thing to celebrate. So it should be like Byron throughout the whole year. It'll be 50 years. I do believe we're going to work along those decades. So the differences through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there's been a huge amount of differences. But I will check what information we can share and what we've got in the event plan. I'm just about to sign off next year's events plan, so you'll be able to see that.
Councillor Robinson-Payne.
So thank you for the update, Linda. It was very good to see all the different things that are happening across the borough and very positive. Just on events, obviously this year it's 8 years since the D-Day landings, and I was wondering if the council will be doing anything to commemorate or support the RBL or do anything alongside them on that. I'd also just like to ask about the voluntary sector. Obviously, you are new in your position since you came along in May as cabinet member, and I was just wondering how you find how the CVS works for Gedling, because I understand that the CVS a number of years ago amalgamated with other areas. Was it Rushcliffe?
Rushcliffe.
Yeah, and I just wonder how that works, whether that really benefits our area or whether that's positive and negative, because I think sometimes with CVSs and from past experience of working with CVSs, they tend to work better when they're sort of localised within a defined boundary, and I think sometimes when you try and amalgamate and work across boundaries, it can become a lot more difficult and some of the work can sometimes be lost. So I suppose just a general view from you really about how you think it works for Gedling in terms of the community voluntary sector for our area.
I'll answer that one first. I have come in new, but I have worked with CVSs in a previous role, although it's changed an awful lot. There has, in this safe environment, there has been some difficulties with it being the Rushcliffe CVS. Not because they don't understand us necessarily, we give them lots of information. They are too stretched, and their needs are not our needs. Nottingham City's needs are not our needs. Only we can know our needs, and I think it is quite difficult for somebody out of the area, which is why we've put a framework in place similar to a CVS and asked for tenders. So in 6 to 8 weeks, we should have our own version of a CVS set up that we can look after ourselves. It hasn't been easy, and there's no detriment meant to them in the least. But we were additional work that they have no funding for, no resource for, and understandably, we're kind of below some of their local needs, which I think is a fair thing to say in this environment. So it hasn't been easy, and you're right, local knowledge and information I think is very, very important. But watch this space, by the summer we should be set up properly, and we are supporting those people that are using CVS, but we need a hub here we can run from. As far as D-Day, 6th of June, we are still having our 6th of June event. We work hard with the British Legion. Again, there's been an issue because there hasn't been somebody within the British Legion leading locally, but I believe they have a new person. I've just had an email to lead locally, so we will support them 100%. Resource and finance is difficult, resources is fine. I'm happy to roll my sleeves up, and Hannah does a lot of work for the British Legion. So we'll absolutely support them in anything that they want to do. It shouldn't be forgotten. You know, 80 years is only yesterday, isn't it? It shouldn't be forgotten. So we will be working with them, see what they need, and if need be, we'll roll our sleeves up and just attend as individuals to give them a helping hand, anything that we can do to support them.
Thank you for that update. I look forward to seeing what happens with the CVS for Gedling.
Yes.
And just following up from what you say about the RBL, it was good to see that the council hosted the regional conference for the Royal British Legion very recently, and I know that some of the comments and the feedback from that was the more we can work together on, the better, to recognise the work of our veterans, but also the families that surround that work and the people that are involved. So it's good to hear that we're doing something to support.
Absolutely, and one of the difficult things, as you'll all be aware, is the original witness veterans from the Second World War are few and far between, but their families still live on, and all the conflicts after that, and we need to make sure that, especially from youth upwards, that they understand the importance of continuing to support it. So it's something very close to my personal heart as well, but Lance is all over it.
Any more questions? Yes, Councillor Smith, and then...
First of all, thank you, Linda, for that, but also thank you for the the work that's been going on with the parish clerks liaison. As you know, I attended the conference, thought it was excellent. Yes, there's always ways you can improve things, but I think it was excellent, and there was only a few minor tweaks required. My two parish clerks, I do need to remind them that that I'm the employer, or as chair of parish council, we're the employer. They don't tell us that going. I was going to ask whether you should notify parish councils per se rather than the clerks about these events, but I think that's an internal matter. But I won't prevent them from going. But going back to the communities, you've mentioned that there's been visits to local shopping centres. Is there any feedback that's available? Because most of these shopping centres are privately owned. Gedling and parish councils have only got so much influence over the landlords.
Sometimes just the car park. There is some feedback, because they're private. Some of the companies are privately owned, as you say. Some of that feedback is fairly confidential, but we'll have spoken to the people that need to know it. But there is a report that's hopefully going to come out with some information in that will be available to council, and then a lighter report that may be published on the website. But at the moment, it's commercial information, so it's got to be processed so that we only share what's rightful to be shared. As far as parish council is concerned, I'd be more than happy to advise everybody that's coming in the hope that you could encourage your clerks to attend if it was the right thing to do.
Councillor Whiting.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Linda, for that. That's really good. There's lots of good stuff going on. I was pleased to see especially that the Remembrance event in November is going to have a kind of Remembrance Peace theme. I know that's 8 months away, but has there been any preliminary thought given on how peace can kind of be incorporated into that? And then following on from what Councillor Martin-Smith just said about town centres, I didn't see a Netherfield visit up there. Has that taken place?
I don't believe it's taken place, but I do believe
it will be.
I believe it was taking place, but it couldn't for some reason,
Okay.
whether it was a local person couldn't arrive or whether it's been moved, but it is on the
But
list.
it's on the
a very
card.
important town centre. As far as pieces, there are discussions ongoing. We're talking to people involved in remembrance, because we certainly don't want to dilute the importance of remembrance and British Legion. And I know Lawrence and his team and Tanya are speaking to other people, already speaking to them, but nothing's been arranged yet. We may put information out there to ask for suggestions. It's a difficult one, as you know, Russell. It's got to be done very sympathetically, empathetically, and it should be an event to celebrate where we've come rather than anything else. So it's a difficult one, but there'll be information when we get it.
Great, yeah, great, thank you, I agree. And then just one specific question about the pitch strategy. I know it was only adopted end of last year, but are there any plans to review it as we get more pitches? So, for example, Magenta Way in Netherfield has just opened. I'm not sure if there's anyone playing there, but local football teams are expanding and getting more teams. So is there any plans to review the pitch strategy?
I haven't got a date for the review. I can go and have a look at the document and see if there's a review date on it. It's a movable feast, isn't it? It changes day by day, but you're quite right. We don't want things to be outdated. I'll check if there's a specific date on the document for a standard review for you.
Okay, Councillor Pope.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for that, Linda. It's really useful to know how wide your portfolio is. Didn't quite realise before. Just following on from Councillor Smith's question around communication and feedback, I just wondered what the strategy was around collecting feedback on some of the community events, because certainly some I've attended seem to have been fairly, should we say, variable in terms of the awareness of the people that attended about the event actually taking place.
So
an example would be the lunar calendar year events. So the bit that happened here seemed to be relatively well attended, quite well known about. The bit that happened down in the AMP, in the square, the dragon dance, lion dance, not dragon dance, lion dance. It was just the people that were sort of passing seemed to be aware. And there were also some of the other bits associated with the lunar calendar year event seemed to be a little less well known, like the trail around Gedling, around Arnold Centre. So I just wondered what was being done about collecting feedback and looking at how we're communicating some of these things to
people. There is
communities.
a communication strategy of how we speak to people. So it's obviously on the website, etc. Connect is another option. There's lots of, I'm not going to go there, lots of options. I can have a look and see what we've done. I'm fairly certain that they are all advertised, but if we're not reaching the right people, any information you can have, this is where the community groups are so useful. If we were talking to Mums and Tots group, you know, they get the information out there. Feedback-wise, we issue surveys. We ask people, when I came to the Windrush, we were actually asking people for their feedback, anonymously or otherwise, and we fed that back. It was an informal, and then we did a more formal feedback process. Difficult with feedback is if you're lucky if you get 20% back, and I think people don't like to be asked necessarily. I think, personally, as a visitor rather than as a councillor, if you like, that actually asked while you're there is, are you enjoying this? How did you hear about it? What would you change about it? A bit like we did for the feedback for the liaison for the parish clerks, I think is very good feedback, and maybe we need to adopt that because there's always somebody from the council, if that's at all possible. If that's me, then I can do it. But I can have a look at if there's a strategic feedback plan. But it is very difficult to contact those who've attended unless they've given us their information to contact them.
Just in terms of raising awareness of events taking place, as part of that strategy, is there a timeline of when, before an event, things should start rolling out? Because that was one of the bits of feedback
I believe
we
there
got
is, yeah. I think we've just recently had an email about the events from comms, haven't we, about the events that are in. I don't know, hands up, I don't know what their process is and their timeline is and how quickly before the event they advertise and where they do, but I'm more than happy to delve a little deeper and look into it. And as you were saying about Byron, you know, 5.5 weeks, there's no run-up left to that particular day, is there? So we need to look at the timelines. I'm more than happy to see where we are and ask your opinion how we can improve it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that would be helpful because it seems to be a theme that's coming up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much for coming, Councillor Pearson. And you said you were going to share the presentation
Yes,
with everybody?
absolutely. We'll sort that out. I'll have a look at these questions and see if we can get some definitive answers for you.
I know that all the councillors in the room like to support local events, so I think, you know, the more people are aware that they're happening in advance, then the more they can do to promote them as well.
Absolutely. And if anybody particularly feels that there's a group of people in the community that are lacking the ability to attend accessibility-wise, please let us know, because that's very important to us to be out there for everybody. And we'll see you there next time we have something on.
You're welcome to stay if we're
Thank you so much. I'm off to another one if that's all right. This one's got coffee, so I'm off. But thank you very much. Thank
you. Okay, so moving on then to item 5. Mike not with us today, so Fran's coming to present the Q3 performance on the Gedling plan.
Thank you, Chair. So this Q3 performance report was presented to Cabinet on the 31st of January and sets out the Council's performance against the Gedling Plan priorities for Q3 of 2023-24, which feels like quite some time ago now. There are 69 actions against the Gedling Plan for 23-24. 6 are completed as of January 2024, with the remaining in progress or assigned, and full details of the progress on those are appended to the report, as you can see. In page 18 of the report, it highlights the completed actions, including successful post-election member training programme that was rolled out last year, and a review of committee effectiveness, which was a survey sent out to all committee members last year. The report goes on to provide details of key performance indicators and performance against those. So there has been some positive performance on KPIs, particularly around improvement on leisure centre visits and theatre visits, and uptake on the swim scheme. Also above target is the time taken to process housing benefit change of circumstances, which is really positive. And encouragingly, against a target of 45, there were 118 affordable homes delivered, which is also obviously very beneficial for the area. And directly as a result of Gedling interventions, 21 empty homes brought back into use against a target of 10 in Q3, which again is a really a positive figure. There have been some missed targets, so 2 missed targets. One was around sickness levels, which were increasing in Q3, and also minor planning applications processed within 8 weeks against a target of 86%. The department hit 80%, which is still a good level, and hoping to get back into target in Q4. Also highlighted in the report and also in the appendices are some of the key achievements in Q3. So again, it feels like quite some time ago now, but there was successful Arnold Christmas light switch on, which has just been mentioned. Also a challenging poverty event, which was held in the Civic Centre, which was a really positive, well, it was a positive event. Unfortunately, it also coincided with the start of one of the flood events in the borough. So on that particular day, we hadn't got quite the turnout we'd hoped because of the weather, because it was quite torrential rain. But the people who did attend, it was a really sort of positive, collaborative event. We also held our Pride of Gedling Awards, again, which was another successful event. So there's a full breakdown of the performance indicators in Appendix 1 to the report, and a full further detail across other key achievements achieved in Q3. I'll mention it because it's close to my heart. In Q3, there was the establishment of the Staff Diversity Network, which I know those of you who attended the Equalities Scrutiny Working Group, we talked about during that meeting. So that's a group of staff volunteers who are trying to improve inclusivity around staff across the organisation, which is really positive. Also the rollout of web chat in customer services, so that went live in October in Q3, and that's proving to be a really important communication channel for our customers, and it's going up and up in terms of its use as a contact from customers, so that's really positive. And also it's been touched on, but the Remembrance Parade events and services that were held in Arnold and Daybrook. So unless there's any specific questions, that's a summary of the information you have before you. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions?
Sorry, Chair, thank you. And thank you for the report. Perhaps it's just me, but sometimes I'm a bit cynical about these targets. I'm sure that there are some of the targets are possibly nationally benchmarked, but for instance, visits to leisure centres, the Bonington Theatre. I don't know whether you know the answer, or perhaps you could feedback. How are those targets? How do they come about in the first place? Because it's very easy to set a target that's achievable.
No, that's interesting. In terms of the specific question on where that leisure target came from, I can find the answer and come back to you. In terms of the KPIs themselves, so they come through SLT, and these are questions that we do look at. So we look at why is this target at this level. Some of them are national kind of standards and are benchmarked against other authorities. Some of it, particularly around leisure, leisure are doing work with around swimming and DNA membership, not specifically the theatre. They're doing work with Big Wave, who are a company to try and increase income through swims. So some of the targets there are set of targets that have been guided from through that organisation as well. Specifically for the theatres, I will check. I know they were looking at pre-COVID levels as well. So what were our levels pre-COVID? And that's kind of we want to get back up to that target level. But it is something that we do look at in SLT. We've recently been looking at the KPIs that we're going to be in for next year, and are they still worthwhile? Are they actually giving us data that that's really helpful in terms of our performance management? But I will find the answer out specifically for the leisure for the theatre visits and get back to you.
I'll come to you both. Sorry, I was just going to say that I know that residents who complain bitterly about the state of houses that are left unoccupied, and I know from a couple in my patch how delighted they are that finally those issues have been resolved with them coming back into use. So that's really good news that those numbers are so high. So thank you for that. Councillor Whiting.
Thanks, Chair. You've actually just said exactly what I was going to say. There's, I think, 2 or 3 houses in Colic that have come back into use. So I know we seem to say this at every meeting, but thanks to the Empty Homes Officer for the fantastic work that she does. And also the number of private rented improvements that were made, I think was 24 against a target of 5. So while it's probably not good that 24 needed work, it's good that that work's done. So thank you for everyone who's doing that.
Councillor Duncan.
I'd just like to comment first. I was quite pleased with the targets for planning being met so well. I know one of them was one of the ones that missed target, but I think overall, with the 3 KPIs, they were very positive results. Also, I wanted to ask a question. Unfortunately, my iPad is falling out with me. It's not letting me on and I can't find it on here, but I wanted to ask a question about the job fairs. I saw there was a figure of something like 165 people coming from Arnold, and just wondered if there was any people who'd come from Carlton.
I don't know, but I can speak to Catherine and find out if she's got any data on who attended.
Because it doesn't appear from the figures in the report that they were. So I was just wondering, with the next one being organised in Arnold again, I wondered whether it would be worth considering doing the job fair in Carlton.
Okay, I will feed back to the team, definitely, and I'll find out and see if and pass you some information on if they did have any sort of information on the geography of attendees.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? No? So thank you very much, Fran. You may leave. Item 6 is an update on welcome and warm spaces. Unfortunately, we've had apologies from, I've forgotten who we've had apologies from, sorry.
Lance Juby.
So Emma is happy to take any comments or questions we may have on that report back to them. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to give some feedback, really. During the winter months, I did actually visit Daybrook Baptist Church for their Cattles On session, which is listed in Appendix 1 as one of the warm spaces. And I have to say, just speaking as a member, but also just an ordinary member of the public, I found the work of the volunteers absolutely vital to some of the people that were in attendance. I remember speaking to an elderly pensioner who said that she'd relied on the warm space quite a lot in the Cattles On session, and it meant that she could have a hot meal and avoided her to having to put the heating on at home and using the gas to heat up food, as bills were so expensive at that time of the year. And I think sometimes it just really does hit home how many people are struggling and actually rely on these spaces just to keep warm. So I just wanted to commend the work of the volunteers who run these facilities in our community and across Gedling. And I know whilst many of the schemes and spaces are doing this vital work, my own opinion is I do think it's shocking indictment really on us as a society that the country is run in such a way that we've got so many people needing that kind of support. Including actually speaking to some other people that were at that event, former veterans who I've mentioned earlier, and young families, but alas, we are where we are. So I just wanted to ask, Chair, in light of seeing some of these warm spaces in action and picking up from the report that the initiative has evolved for a year-round approach, I think it said in the report, can I just ask if there are plans to expand the number of participating venues in the future? And if so, how will this be done? And I'm sure the question might have to be passed on, which is fine, but I just was asking for some elaboration really on how the evolved initiatives, the initiative addresses year-round needs, as it said in the report, to reduce loneliness, because obviously it said in the report that we were trying to expand this across the year, because I know that in my own patch of Daybrook, we've got a couple of schemes that support people around social isolation and that kind of thing. So I just find the work really interesting, and I've seen it work in action. So they were my questions really, but if the officer can't answer, then I'm happy for the questions to be fed back.
I know I've got more questions, so I was just going to say, could we ask that he does come and give an update with the answers to some of the questions?
I was just going to say, I know sort of the answer because I've spoken to Fiona about this and we spoke about this in depth about the committee's wish to review it and their happiness that it goes on. And a lot of the comments last time were that people didn't know where they were, that there were, I think there were some people in Burton Joyce that weren't on the list. So the team's view was, if you know of anyone that is given this service, please either tell the communities team yourself or tell the organisation to come through to us so that we can publicise their network. The whole sort of point of this, and it mentions it in the report, is that this isn't like a government-funded thing. This is just people in the communities team who are trying to link all of these people that are doing really, really great work up into one network so we can make sure that everybody knows about this as much as possible. So we're the sort of the sharer and the collaborator, but it's the local voluntary groups that are actually doing the work. So if anybody knows any person or group that's not in this list or not in the contacts magazine or not, you know, that we don't know about, please let us know. I can't comment on what we're doing to sort of chase that because I wouldn't know, but I would imagine that anybody that we do know about, they're already and they're already in the network, they're already in the list of our partners. So I'll take that back and see if someone can come in the future to give a further update and to take your comments and feedback, but I can take anything today.
So Councillor Rachel Ellis, then.
Thank you. I'd like to echo, first of all, what Councillor Robinson-Payne has said. I just wanted to give some feedback with regard to the Bestwood Village Warm Hub, which is based in the welfare, the Bestwood Miners Welfare charity are running this. It is run by volunteers. It's run 3 days a week at the moment. It does require an awful lot of effort by volunteers, and I think I want to congratulate them on what they've done. When I do drop in on a fairly regular basis, and when we started there weren't a huge number of people who turned up. But as people became familiar and became comfortable with the idea of that space being available to them, we've now got a wide variety of people, from older people who might be isolated, families and children. We've got people who bring their laptops in and work from there. And it's just a very open, welcoming space, and it is well used now. The other thing that is much appreciated is the welfare rights advice, which currently is running from there every Wednesday, and my understanding it's well used. And the member of staff from Gedling who runs it brings her laptop, settles in. When she hasn't got a client to talk to, she gets on with her own work. So it kind of works very well for everybody. Thank you.
Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of what I was going to say has already been said by Councillor Robinson-Payne and the other Councillor Ellis. It's a sad state when, in one of the richest countries in the world, people are having to decide between heating and eating. I feel, though, that we should be doing more to expand the scheme and also to celebrate those who have been involved. I have volunteered a few times. Well, I've been voluntold a few times to attend the one at Emmanuel Church and the Bestwood Miners Welfare. And the volunteers there do so much, and we really do, as a council, need to do something, even if it's inviting them to an evening at the council, just to say thank you, because they do so much. I'd also like to pay tribute to the former chair of this committee, who wouldn't have ever wanted anyone to know how much she did for the Carlton Community Hub, but I feel that she needs to be recognised because of the hard work she put in. So, yes.
And still does.
And still does, yes.
Councillor Creamer.
Yeah, a lot of it has actually been said, but again, the volunteers make all the difference. And it's getting harder and harder to get volunteers at the moment, particularly after COVID. But I'm just wondering, more than a comment than anything else, that this is the kind of work that the CVS used to coordinate the groups. The groups will still operate independently, but when we did have our own CVS,
they were quite a crucial link in actually making sure there was an interlink between them. So if your brother lives over there or other families, so the word got round. So I'm just wondering if when we do get our own CVS, whether this would be part of their work programme. So it's not really a question, just a comment.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? No, thank you. So I mean, there are a lot of questions to take back, but I think it would be good if he could come to the committee and answer those questions, and there might be a few more then as well. Thank you. So we're nearly there. So Scrutiny Work Programme, we've got an update on the other issues that we wanted to have feedback from, and the current working groups. Is everybody satisfied with the planned programme, and is there anything else people would like to be added or considered? Councillor Brown?
Can we have a review of the Contacts magazine, please?
Any other thoughts on that? Okay, so in what way do you want that to be done? Do you want somebody to come and give an update on how who it reaches and that sort of thing?
Yeah, basically cost. How many pages are council? How many pages external? Usual costings. How do we get it out there? We are talking of potentially putting it online. Would people still be able to access hard copies going to OAP complexes, etc.? Just a bit more information, breakdown as to costings.
Okay.
I can ask the Commons Manager if he could just do a quick report that gives that information to you, and that should be fine. Potentially for next meeting, if not, then the meeting after. But I'll get back to you. I did just want to give a quick update and pass on some apologies from Mel. So you'll see that a few of the reports that were supposed to be in this meeting have been moved to the next meeting. That was just due to workload and issues with the recent flooding. He's found it quite hard to put these reports together. So just passed on his apologies for the lateness of them. But you'll see that we have a very packed meeting next month. And just to come back to Councillor Whiting's point, the update on the sewage recommendations is going to be coming to next meeting. So that's sort of what you were saying. In terms of July, the date hasn't been set yet because it's set at annual council. But I do plan for the next meeting just to give indicative dates of when they'll be, so you know for planning. And just again, a reminder that we haven't got any other partners coming. So if you have any ideas on that, that's something I'm really, really keen to hear from, because I think it's important that we, as much as we scrutinise our portfolio holders, we also scrutinise and get information from and help our partners. So that's something I'd really like to hear from, and whether it be here or you can email me at any time. Thank you.
Councillor Robinson-Payne.
Thank you, Chair. I think coming back off what Emma's just said, and I know we're not responsible, but ultimately we could be doing more as an authority to promote access to NHS dentistry, actually. I recently made a check around trying to get access to a dentist, and the closest I was advised to go to was Gainsborough, which is obviously unacceptable. And I drive, so it probably would be okay for me, but definitely not okay for some families that haven't got transport and that kind of thing. So, I mean, yes, we haven't got direct responsibility for that, but as a local authority, we could be doing more to promote access. And if we're working with partners and getting partners in, we could discuss that with them and to see how they work locally, what they're doing to try and improve the situation. I just think that'd be a good update, but that's just my view, coming back off what Emma's just said about bringing partners in.
So, I mean, we have raised that before. Up until now, it's not made the priority list, but we can change that. It depends how people feel. So I've got 2 hands up at the moment. Councillor Brocklebank.
Thank you. It's just on the back of that last point to say that obviously we have got the Nottingham and Nottinghamshire ICB are just down the road, and it just might be the most sensible course of action, because I think it's so high on the agenda around dentistry. So it's really just, if we can ask someone to attend from there, just to give us almost like an outline, especially initially, to start that conversation, because they're probably the best place to start. So it's more of a, I support that idea and a suggestion of where it might be best to start if we're going to ask a partner to come in and talk to us.
Okay, thank you. I've got 2 more councillors waiting to speak. So Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
I'd like to agree with that, and with putting it higher on the priority list. The last time I looked for an NHS dentist, I was told to go to Solihull. Also, considering that I believe it was last week we got sent a email about oral health, it's a bit rich to get an email about oral health and webinars and all that when you can't even get yourself to an NHS dentist.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, sorry, I say this time and time again, and whilst I agree with the points made, it is an important matter to our residents. We do have a county council that has a health scrutiny board, and they have, they statutorily get the ICB in front of them all the time. So my advice to members is write to your county councillor and get them to ask the question at County Hall for the Health and Wellbeing Board, which Councillor Welsh sits on. So I'm sure she'll be an advocate for the colleagues and voices there.
Go ahead, Councillor Robinson-Payne.
I'm happy to propose it to go to a vote, because I feel very strongly about it, and I do follow some of what the County Council do, but actually to get someone in here to speak to us as Gedling Borough councillors, I think would help us to be able to communicate the information that residents are feeding back to us directly to the ICB and to the partners that have been mentioned. So I'm happy to put a proposal forward that we invite them in to do a report on to give us an update on NHS dentistry in the Gedling area.
So before we do that, no, that's what before we do that, I just want to check with Emma. So is the proposal that we've had from Councillor Brocklebank about who we could ask, is that feasible?
I was just going to say, so the next meeting we have Councillor Henry Wheeler coming to give an update on his portfolio, and as much as he doesn't cover the health of everything because we don't have the remit, he could maybe either bring somebody with him or give some information on exactly what Councillor Smith is saying from county, or maybe bring a colleague with him so we can sort of do 2 in 1. In terms of who we can scrutinise, we can ask people, but because we're not funding them, it isn't our remit, we can't mandate it. So we can, of course, ask, but I would just caveat with, they could say no. So maybe we could try with Councillor Wheeler to see if he could maybe bring somebody or bring some information on the topics that you're talking about, so we're not saying no, and then if that's not sufficient, potentially in the future ask partners. I think that might be a midline, if that's agreeable.
Is that acceptable?
Some of that's acceptable. I think actually inviting the partners, and if they say no, then they're accountable for that ultimately. I want to be able to ask questions, communicate information that residents have fed back to me. I will do that through the county, but I also want to do that directly as a Gedling Borough Councillor to those individuals. So I think that to invite them, if they refuse, then that's on them.
Do we need to go to a vote? No.
So they have been here before, so it's not like it's never happened. I'm just saying that we can maybe collate the 2 in 1. So I will see if they can attend when Councillor Wheeler is coming at the next meeting. If they can't, then I can ask them for future. I just wanted to review your expectations that we can't make them, we can just ask them, and I'm very happy to ask them because they have come before and they have given updates across the whole of the ICB area, which I know that members found really informative. So I can ask and I'll let you know. Thanks.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I agree that access to NHS dentistry should be a right for everybody, let's be careful that we don't scaremonger too much. If you're a child or you receive dentistry completely free of charge, those places are available. But I do agree that it should be available to all. But we just need to be careful what message we send out to the wider public.
Okay. I did try to persuade my dentist that my child, who's in her 30s, should be able to access them, but it didn't work. This might have happened before my time on the committee, but we heard earlier about funding that the Gedling Play Forum receives. Have we had an update from them?
It's about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, but this is what I was saying. It is for the committee to see who they want to review. So I whoever you want, I can ask. Even if they have come in the last few years, they can still give you valuable updates or information, or they could still ask us for further help. So I'm happy to put that back on the agenda and ask them if they'll be able to come. We need to think about next year's programme while we're here. It may not be all the same members, but it's helpful to have some items that are rolling on so that for July and the next meeting we have something to discuss.
People happy that we ask Gedling Play Forum to return at some point in the next programme? Yeah, okay. Any other suggestions? Okay, if you think about them after the meeting, then just email them in. That'll be helpful. So I haven't been notified of any other business. And oh, sorry, Councillor Duncan, sorry. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to have Jigsaw back, but can we also invite Nottingham City Homes?
Yeah.
Similar situation regarding remit, I can ask them. I'm not 100% sure on the actual relationship between us and them and what they are mandated to do. So the same thing. I'll ask and I'll.
Yeah, can I confirm that certainly within Bestwood, St Albans and possibly other wards, they do have homes,
Cool, that's fine then.
and therefore they should be accountable to us.
Thank you.
Right, so I'm not aware of any other business unless anyone has any items they want to raise now. No. Oh, just turn myself off. Otherwise, I think the next meeting is at 22nd of April, and we've also got working group next week. So thank you all for your time, and we'll end the meeting now.